welcome to Talking Europe. Today you find us in Spain, peering avidly into what could be a high-tech future for the food we put on our plates. Now, almost half of Spain is given over to farmland. It is the world's #1 producer of olive oil. It exports even more wine than France and is #1 in Europe for genetically modified crops. It also happens to be the second biggest recipient of Europe's Common Agricultural Policy funding. Well, first then, to find out a bit more about what goes on under the earth, what better idea than to take to the skies? Johan Baudin and Stéphane Baudin have been down on the farm to find out why increasingly tractors and combine harvesters are being joined by drones.
Taking to the skies to get a better picture of what's going on at ground level. Over the past 3 years, Sergio Rodriguez has analysed 1,500 hectares of Spanish fields with his drone. His startup is based at the Valladolid Agricultural University, a hub of innovation and farming. The goal, to educate the farmers of tomorrow in the techniques of the future.
Our students can see that this precision farming is here to stay. They've always been taught about traditional agriculture, but now they can end up in the fields using drones and satellite information.
Smart Rural now has 7 full-time employees. 2 of them are in Silicon Valley, using artificial intelligence to analyse the drone's data. Business is booming for Sergio's startup. Turnover has tripled in the past year.
The technology is getting cheaper all the time. 3 years ago, this equipment, the drone and the sensors, cost €25,000. At that price, it was hard for farmers to afford it, but now the price has dropped. Now the sensors are worth around €3,000, and the drone is about €8,000.
As the costs of flying have fallen, Sergio has been able to cut his prices to €10 per hectare. Many of his customers are wine producers around Valladolid. The sector has been boosted by state and European funds worth €7 million.
We've tried to focus on the most strategic areas of Spain. Here, with all the famous vineyards, it's a really important area of work for us, because they're looking to make top quality produce and the best wines.
This 200-hectare vineyard is one of Sergio's most valued customers. The owners want to use the data harvested by the drones to discover the secrets of their land.
This is a multispectral camera, which takes pictures as it flies along a set route. The drone goes backwards and forwards along the fields, a bit like a tractor.
The drone sensors record data about the crops and land, everything from soil temperature to the foliage on the branches. It can even detect crop diseases before they become visible.
Diseases that affect the vine's trunk are a major threat for the sector, and they could have a huge impact on our region. With the drone, we can single out the individual plants as soon as they are affected.
The drone's data can be analysed immediately, helping farmers focus their irrigation and chemical spraying where they're needed. This precision agriculture can reduce wastage and conserve precious resources.
This area isn't getting enough.
Here, the zone isn't being watered enough.
Yes, there's an irrigation problem that we're going to have to check. Let's take a look at the thermal map. You can see the soil temperature is higher. We can water it some more and put down some organic material.
As well as increased yields, the drone's data can help produce bills for water and fertilizer. In places as drought-affected as Spain, drones could prove a vital tool in preventing future shortages. Sergio is looking towards the horizon too. He hopes to take his drones to the farms of Latin America next year.
Well, you find us now inside the Agriculture Ministry in Madrid. We are here, of course, to meet Spain's Agriculture Minister, Isabel García Tejerina. Thank you very much for having us.
Oh, thanks to you for being here.
Well, we've just seen that report about how drones are helping people in your home region of Valladolid to deal with drought, which I know is a problem for many farmers in Spain. What overall do you see as the biggest challenges right now?
Well, really now in Spain we are facing an important drought, but what I see as the main goal for us is to increase competitiveness and to give stability for their activity to farmers. From this point of view, from the drought in Spain, we have more than 3.5 million hectares under irrigation. We have invested a lot in saving water in irrigation, but we must keep on saving water in irrigation and improving the efficiency for water.
Now, this is a country where unemployment remains high currently. There are a lot of people who worry about new technology coming in, to put it bluntly, robots stealing people's jobs. Is that something people should be worried about in Spain?
For many years, there's always have been this fear about technologies versus employment. I think we have to use the new goals or these new demands in society, environment, for example, circular economy, climate change. There are many, many things we have to give an answer where there's also a possibility to create new jobs, but we cannot say no to the development of technology in any areas of the economy.
Well, one technology, to put it that way, where Spain is a leader in Europe is in genetically modified crops. GMO is very controversial. Around 3/4 of EU states have effectively banned GM crops. Does Spain intend to continue with GMO?
We cannot say no to the science, and we think that when the science is supported by the European agency that guarantees all the European consumers the quality, the safety, the protection to environment and to health, we have to leave science to improve the agriculture and the productions, because there are also great benefits for environment and for the health and for the nutrition through the biotechnology.
Well, many people claim that genetically modified crops are actually dangerous for the environment. So what benefits do you see?
When you have some crops which are resistant to diseases, you don't need to fight against these diseases with chemical products. When you have varieties or seeds which are more resistant to drought, that means that you need less water to have the same level of the same yield in different crops. So there are many possibilities, many improvements, positive for the environment, positive for the health, which can come through biotechnology, always supported case by case by the report of the European Agency for Food for Security.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Isabel Garcia Tejerina.
Thanks to you. It's a great pleasure.
Well, when it comes to food, I'm sure everyone's mum and dad told them it's very important to eat up your greens to grow big and strong. In Europe, though, as well as in China, that means importing huge quantities of plant proteins. That could be about to change, though. Anaïs Guérard has been finding out about a cutting-edge European and Chinese joint project aimed at redressing that balance.
Making sure more of Europe's food is homegrown from the ground up. That's the ambition of the European research programme EUCLEG. They want to boost the cultivation of high-protein but little-known crops like alfalfa, red clover and faba beans. The starting point, of course, is the seed, meaning seed producers are a key actor.
We're going to evaluate a great deal of genetic information. We'll find out more about the way they adapt to different terrain and disease. It's good for us because on our own we wouldn't be able to research it and use the results in our products.
The aim is to get crop varieties with a higher yield and increased adaptability. But the seeds won't reach the market for another decade. The European researchers are only just preparing the first plantations. These alfalfa seeds are ready to be dispatched around Europe.
We've already prepared 2 sites, one here in France and another in Serbia. We'll test the 400 varieties of alfalfa. Here we're preparing the seed packets for 3 other sites, one in the UK, another in the Czech Republic, and another for Denmark.
Little will be left to doubt. The crops will face field tests as well as laboratory conditions.
Here we're extracting from the foliage samples for analysis of the DNA.
The overall goal is twofold: improve crop productivity, as well as ensure the plant is better for the environment.
Currently, the economic model on which soybeans is based is that it's not expensive. But that's outdated, because you're only looking at the economic costs. That is to say, the price of soy, but that's only one part of the picture. You're completely ignoring the environmental costs.
These crops are a vital component in the food chain, feeding much of the world's livestock. But Europe imports 70% of its plant protein, including GMO soybeans.
And it is coming mostly from Canada, Brazil, so from foreign countries. And what is imported at this moment is mostly used for livestock feeding, just as a feed product. So that's why there is an interest on the cultivation of soybean in European grounds for food production.
Reducing Europe's reliance on imported feed crops means regaining control of the food we eat. And the switch to these new protein-rich plants could have other benefits for farmers too. Many of the fodder crops contain a lot of nitrogen, which helps enrich the soil.
It has been shown that you can really achieve high harvests with red clover without the need for inputting a lot of nitrogen. So they don't need extra nitrogen fertilization. It's actually a cheap way to produce your own proteins on the farm.
Adapting the seeds to European conditions is another factor. This lab test in Belgium is testing their response to drier soil.
We need to create varieties that are better adapted to the climate that we expect that will be more prevalent in the future. So these are climates in which periods of water shortage, of drought, will become more and more frequent.
Coping with climate change while guaranteeing access to food is a global issue. Europe is partnering with China in the research. China consumes 2/3 of the world's soybeans and imported 95 million tons of soy last year.
Take a look at this, the Arbequina olive, particularly good for the intensive farming. Now, olive oil is known for its health-giving properties, for skin, for hair. It's even said by some to prevent cancer and promote weight loss. Well, Spain is the world's #1 olive oil producer. Around 1/5 of all crops grown here are olives. However, they only make up around 6% of the economic value taken from agriculture. That's why we've come to this olive plantation in Toledo, just south of Madrid, to find out more. Earlier, I asked 2 experts whether they think, particularly in this drought-prone land, any more value can be squeezed from this green gold.
You have to remember that traditional olive groves are going through a hard time, and if it wasn't for the CAP's support and funding for this olive grove, which represents 1/4 of its income, then maybe a traditional olive grove of 70 to 80 olive trees per hectare, which is almost wholly irrigated with rainwater, would not exist and would not be workable.
Spain has been going through a period of drought. Olive groves are dependent on the rain for water, and they've been hugely affected by the drought. Of the 2.5 million hectares of olive groves in Spain, more than 1 million hectares get their water from the rain. These olive groves need to adapt a great deal because climate change is likely to affect them in the future.
Well, I'm joined now by Tomás García Azcarate, who is from the Spanish National Research Council. Farming is definitely changing, not just here in Spain, but all around Europe. What are the main challenges that you see?
Well, in Spain, clearly the main challenge is climatic change and water. And water and climatic change, as you wish. To make the best use of the available water in a sustainable way is no doubt the main challenge.
They say necessity is the mother of invention. Do you have faith in technology to find solutions to climate change, growing populations, more mouths to feed?
Well, technology is part of the answer, but it's not the only answer. Technology can help us. We see in irrigation, we see with drones, we see with robots and so on, is part of the solution. Nevertheless, there is a resilience problem which has to be confronted at all levels. And this example of mixing different type of farmings in order to be able to manage the volume of water you have is a perfect example.
Well, we've now come to the traditional part of this plantation. This olive tree being grown traditionally, how old might this one be?
Easily 200 years.
Okay, so that's something that's interesting to me in Spain. You've got these very old types of farming, but also a lot of farmers in Spain turning something very modern, genetically modified crops. Do you think that more European countries could or should be following Spain's example on GMO?
My own opinion is that we need a case-by-case study to see what is the impact on the environment, on the consumer, the pros, the cons, and after that, depending on the local problems, environmental and so on, you can, and the market you are looking for, you can make your final opinion.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Thomas Garcia Azcárate.
You're welcome.
From here in Toledo, in Spain, we will say goodbye to part 1 of our programme. Do stay with us for part 2, however. We're heading elsewhere in the European Union to find out why, increasingly, old MacDonald doesn't just have a farm, he also has a hacker on speed dial. We'll see you in part 2.
Because a new page of history gets written every day. Because breaking news can't wait. Information everywhere. In all situations. On every subject. Understanding the world. Imagining the world. France 24. A different take on the news.